Alright guys, so today we are going to finally fix an issue in the Integra. Very common issue that I went over in the prior video. Gavin is getting some water in his new JDM tails. It's getting ready to snow here, so I want to try and take care of this before we get any more rain. Just because it's winter time, you got water inside plastic, it's going to freeze, and it's probably going to crack the tail lights. So we ended up going with a set of Detroit muscle taillight gaskets. These are known to be far superior to the OEM units and should be correcting that problem. So as we found last time, Gavin was getting water in his trunk. Alright, so as we found out last time, Gavin is getting some water in his trunk. You can see some ice down there. The water getting in is getting in from this side. As you can see, that those are all condensated up. So we're going to go ahead and pop these out and get the new gaskets in. I've never taken off your tail lights before. You got to take off this back panel first. If you're lucky, you will have 4 clips up top to pop that off. Gavin's only has 2. Somebody has fucked with this before and busted the clips. But you're going to see you're going to have a bunch of these 10mm studs and nuts. 1, 2 there, and I think just 1 back there to pop out the tail light. And once the tail lights are out, now you can see this one is ripped and it's not sealing. I know I can push in right there, so water's probably coming in right there. That side looked like it was in pretty good condition. I just think when Gavin put these in, he probably didn't pay attention to them very good. But this one is ripped a little bit over here. I'll go ahead and show those once they're out. Like, correction to my ignorance, these are actually 8mm nuts, and there are 2 more shoved back in there. There's 1 in the bottom and then 1 on the top to get out the corners of the taillights. Alright, so once you get all the nuts out, you're going to have 1 final plug over here. You pop this plug out. There's a little tab in here to compress. And pop that out. And now you should just be able to pull the taillight assemblies out from the car. And you can see how much condensation are in these. Now if you look at the original gaskets, you can see the water, and it's actually frozen to the taillight at this point. You can see this one is ripped here. I was probably letting a lot of water in there. And just in general, these things are pretty much trash, but they are actually frozen to the taillights. But I'll show you a difference in a minute once I can get these out to show you what those Detroit muscle ones look like compared to the stock ones. So I got the passenger side off. Again, you guys can see all the way around the ring where this thing got wet, and this is actually frozen because it is holding water and letting water in. Now here is the Detroit muscle piece compared to the OEM piece, and these OEM pieces were always known to be problems even when they were brand new. But look at the thickness difference in these. So it's no wonder these things let in water and constantly gave people problems. Now after you compress these things for 20 plus years as well, that becomes a problem. So again, you can see this one was ripped over here and it's all wet, so that's why it was letting in water. We're going to go ahead and get these on the tails, get them popped back in, and then we're going to find out from the snow or rain if they sealed. Alright, just to add to the humor here, I saw a little bit of a ledge here that didn't seem right. I was going to try and clean it off, and look what I actually found that it is. It is actually ice. So, just to give you guys an idea how much water these things were holding in the bottom, and why it was letting water into his trunk, is because there's huge chunks of ice and water holding down here in the bottom of these taillights. So again, guys, this is a must fix on these Integras if you are getting water in your trunk and condensation in your nice taillights. So when you need to get the condensation out of taillights, depending on how bad they are, you need to improvise. I tried to do it with a hairdryer and that wasn't going to be enough. So we threw it in the oven for about 10 minutes on 200. And you can see a little bit of condensation on the lenses. but when I actually turned the lights upside down, and they just literally pissed water out of them. So I let them in for like another minute or so. Get ready to end that out, and we'll see if I got all the condensation out. Clean those up. Alright, so the other side is still baking. We're going to go ahead and get these on. I put the other side in for almost 20 minutes now, real low heat, and they are pretty dried out now. Just a tiny bit of condensation. So we're going to get this set done. Basically, obviously, you're just popping these down on the studs. Just making sure you're not ripping them when you're putting them on. And these are seated down on all the studs. Now when you go ahead and tighten these, I mean, you do want to compress these, but you don't want to go like He-Man on them and end up ripping them when you put them in. But just as simple as that, you can see how much thicker those things are when they seat and they're nice and fresh and unripped. So we'll go ahead and let the other one dry up a little bit more, and we'll go pop this out in the car. I got the driver's side taillight in, and I have these just snug. As you guys can see, these new gaskets are no fucking joke. You can see how much of a gap is from coming out the side at the back of the taillight. So you are going to have to crank on these a little bit to get them to seat in. So I was initially incorrect. You do want to crank on those to get a nice tight seal on there. So we have the other one sitting in the oven a little bit longer, just get everything fully cleared. And this one is just about done. So the passenger side taillight is set. You can see a tiny bit of condensation left. I think that's just going to eventually work itself out. They're about as good as I'm going to be able to get them in the oven. Going from really hot, well, not really hot, but hot to cold, it's going to condensate a little bit. So again, that should work its way out in the wash. These things are pretty phenomenal, these Detroit muscle gaskets. I don't have that one tightened up yet, but I just want to say, if you guys are messing around with this issue with your trunk getting wet and obviously your taillight's getting fogged up, go with those Detroit muscle gaskets. Get them off of eBay. They're 20 bucks. You can't beat them. Don't fuck around with the OEM ones. It just doesn't make sense. Plus, they probably cost more. So I think it was like 19 bucks shipped. You can't beat it. Got them in like 2 days and ready to rock and roll. So another completed project. If you guys are interested in seeing more in the Integra, hit me up. If you have any questions about the install, let me know. Have a good one.